let us discuss moment of inertia. So what is moment of inertia? It is the property of the body by which body opposes any change in state of rotational motion. So basically, what is the mass? Normal inertia. If we talk about the inertia is the property by which the body opposes the change in its translatory motion, but moment of inertia is the property by which the body opposes change in its rotational motion. Okay. Now, like moment of inertia plays the same role in rotational motion as mass plays in translational motion. So basically, moment of inertia is kind of equivalent to the mass while talking about rotational motion. Now, moment of inertia of a system of particle depends on the following factors. So what are the factors? First factor is the axis of rotation. It depends which axis we are talking. As soon as we change the axis, moment of inertia also changes. Next is the mass of the particles, like how much is the mass of the system. And next is the distribution of the mass, which is also depends on the shape. It's like shape of the body and distribution of the mass about the axis. So moment of inertia depends on all these factors. So first let us discuss the relationship between rotational kinetic energy and moment of inertia. So from there we are going to define moment of inertia again. So let us discuss that we have an object. So this is a object, random object, and I am taking some particles on it. Like this is M1 situated at R1 distance. This is M2 situated at R2 distance. This is M3 situated at R3 distance, and so on. There are like there are infinite particles. I am saying this entire compound body is made up of infinite tiny particles. Now this body is rotating about this axis with the angular speed of omega. Now when this entire body is rotating, can I say this mass is doing a circular motion with radius r1? This small particle m3 is also doing circular motion, but radius will be r3. And same thing, the m2 is also doing the circular motion, but with the another radius is r2. Now if I want to write the kinetic energy, let us say the velocity of this m1 is v1, velocity of this m2 particle is v2, and velocity or speed of this m3 particle is v3, and so on. We can write the mn particle is having vn velocity. Now if I want to write a expression for kinetic energy of entire system, I'll say it is half m1 v1 square, that is the kinetic energy associated with this mass. Half m2 v2 square is the kinetic energy of particle number 2. Half m3 v3 square is the kinetic energy of next particle, and so on. When we add all small such kinetic energies, we get the total kinetic energy of the entire system. So this is the kinetic energy of a rotating object. Now when I want to write the v1, so this is how we can do this. First is this m1 is performing a circular motion. In circular motion, how can we relate the speed and angular speed? So I will say v1 is nothing but r1 omega. v2 is nothing but r2 omega. Because v is equal to r omega, I am just, r is different but omega is same. This is going to be r3 omega. So instead of this v1, I can write r1 omega, and it is v1 square, so square. Same thing over here, I can write r2 omega and square of that, which will be that. And last particle, it will be rn omega and square of that. So that is what we can write. So once we write, we get this expression as half m1 r1 square omega square, half m2 r2 square omega square, and so on for all the particles. Now here we can take omega common. So we can write half, and omega square I have taken common from this expression, and half also has been taken as common from all the expressions. So now it becomes half m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square plus m4 r4 square, and so on all the way up to mn rn square times omega square. So this entire bracket makes another thing, and if I want to write this entire bracket, then this is nothing but summation of mi ri square, where I varies all the way from 1 to n. So 1 to n means all the particles. So this thing, if I define this bracket as I, moment of inertia, then basically my moment of inertia is this summation of all mi ri square, and then kinetic energy expression becomes half I omega square. Now what is the role of this? Basically, if there is a mass of m mass and moving with v velocity, then I would say kinetic energy is given by half m v square. So this is the kinetic energy of translation. But what if you have an axis and about which your object is rotating with an angular speed omega? Then you say the kinetic energy. See, this is also having some kinetic energy, but it is not going anywhere. So it doesn't have any translatory kinetic energy. Its kinetic energy is entire kinetic energy of rotation, and that is given by half I omega square. See, so half is half, and v is what? V is velocity, and this is angular velocity. So whatever is the mass, role of mass in translatory motion, same mass, the moment of inertia I is playing in the rotational motion, and I is given by what? It is basically mi ri square, and you add all such things, so you get the moment of inertia of. Now we will discuss more, but let us first study if it is a continuous mass. So if you have to find the moment of inertia of a continuous mass, then what happens is I is nothing but summation mi ri square. And if you have to go for a continuous mass, then this summation sign becomes integration. This mass becomes a small mass, and this becomes r squared. So this is for a continuous object. So this is for particles. If you have particles from the axis, and if you have a continuous body from the axis which is rotating, then you can go for the second formula, which is therefore continuous distribution of mass. So wherever we have continuous mass, we are going to use this, and wherever we have discrete mass, then we are going to use this one. Now next is theorem related to moment of inertia. So before we find moment of inertia of various objects, we need to talk about the theorems which are related to moment of inertia. So there are two theorems. First is parallel axis theorem, and second is perpendicular axis theorem. Let us discuss them one by one. First is parallel axis theorem. So what is parallel axis theorem? The statement. So this states that moment of inertia of a distribution of matter about an arbitrary axis is equal to moment of inertia that matter about an axis through its center of mass and parallel to arbitrary axis, plus this is moment of inertia about the axis which is passing through center of mass, and product of mass and the mass of the matter and square of the perpendicular distance. So this is mass of the matter and this is the square of the distance. So when you add them, you get moment of inertia about any axis. Let us understand it with the help of a figure. So this is the body of m mass. This is the object which is having m mass. And if I say this is center of mass, this is center of mass, the center of gravity which is g. And if you know that moment of inertia about this axis is ICM, the mass of this entire object is m, then you want another axis which is yy. If you want to get moment of inertia about that, so you already know moment of inertia about this axis, which is nothing but a parallel axis passing through center of mass, and distance between these two axes is d. Then you can write moment of inertia about this axis. So I about yy is going to I about y dash plus md squared. This is what our parallel axis theorem states. Apart from that, what is that? That has to be ICM. So for this axis, for this theorem, you always need to know the moment of inertia about an axis which is parallel to the axis which we want to find the moment of inertia about and passes through the center of mass. These two conditions are a must. Now this axis, the parallel axis theorem, is valid whether the object is 2D, 3D or 1D. This axis is valid for all. It's just that you should know the center of mass, you should know the moment of inertia about axis which is passing through that, and then you can find the moment of inertia about any axis which is parallel to that particular axis. Next is perpendicular axis theorem. So let us go for the statement. So sum of moment of inertia of a plane lamina about two mutually perpendicular axes lying in its plane is equal to the moment of inertia about an perpendicular axis to the plane of the lamina and passing through the point of intersection of first two axes. So basically moment of inertia about this axis which is perpendicular to the plane is equals to moment of inertia about these two axes and addition of that. So we need to understand what is Ix, Iy and Iz. So again, let us understand this within an object. So first thing, this theorem is true for only planar objects. So if there is a 2D object, then we can always take three axes, three mutual perpendicular axes. Two are passing from two are basically inside the plane of the object and one is perpendicular to the plane of the object. So basically moment of inertia about this axis is equal to moment of inertia about those two, is the addition of moment of inertia about those two axes which are in the plane of the object, and this is our perpendicular axis theorem. Now we are going to use these theorems in the moment of inertia of various objects. So let us say moment of inertia of some particular object which you need to remember. So first comes the point mass. So definition, by the definition we learn that moment of inertia is nothing but summation of mi ri square. So if this is the axis and there is a particle which is particle of m mass which is lying at r distance from the axis, then moment of inertia about this axis of this point mass is given by I is equal to mr square, where m is the mass of the object and r is the perpendicular distance from the axis. Now it does not matter. See, some of the students, they get confused. Like, do we find the moment of inertia when object is rotating only? Like, if it is, what if it is not rotating? Is moment of inertia valid? Then also answer is yes. See, the mass of a particle is, let's say, 5 kg. Now whether this is stationary or this translate, it moves. The mass remains 5 kg. Like that, moment of inertia is a scalar quantity. Its unit is basically kg meter square. It is defined about the axis. As soon as you change the axis, moment of inertia is going to change. And whether it is rotating or not, that does not matter at all. So moment of inertia of a point mass is given by this formula which you can remember. Now next is moment of inertia of a system of point masses. So what if you have a lot of point masses about an axis? So suppose there are mass m1, mass m2, mass m3 which are lying at a distance of r1, r2 and r3 from the axis. Now about that rotation is happening or not, that does not matter. We just have to find the moment of inertia. So we have already learned that while relating the kinetic energy and moment of inertia, that moment of inertia is given by summation of mi ri square. For this particular three particle, I will write moment of inertia is nothing but m1, what is the perpendicular distance, r1 square, plus moment of inertia of this particle, so m2 r2 square, plus moment of inertia of the third particle which is m3 r3 square. And once you can directly add, since it is a scalar quantity, like you can add the masses, you can add the moment of inertia as well. Next is thin rod. So we are going to find the moment of inertia of a thin rod, but thin rod is a continuous object. So this is a rod. I am going to find the moment of inertia about this axis. So I am going to find the moment of inertia about this axis. Whenever you have a continuous object, we already know that we have to use this formula, integration dm r square. What is r and what is that dm? Dm is a small element, mass of a small element which is lying at r distance. For rod, what we will do, we'll go at a distance x, or we can say r, and we'll cut a section which is having a width of dr. And dm is mass of this part. Mass of this part is dm. We have already learned how to do that. We'll say total mass divided by total length, because mass is distributed over a length over here. So total length of the rod is L should be equal to dm, this mass divided by length of this part, which is nothing but dr. And that gives me the dm is nothing but m by l dr. And put the value and integrate. So here I am going to integrate. I am talking about this axis. So I will say integration m by l dr times this r square, and limit r is changing. So r is changing from where to where? R is changing. R is starting all the way from L is equal to 0 to R is equal to L. So I am putting the limit on R from 0 to L. So m by L is a constant quantity, it comes out, and the integration of R square is R cube by 3. And when you put the limit 0 to L, you get m L cube by 3L. Once you cancel out 1L, you get moment of inertia is nothing but ml square by 3. This is the moment of inertia of this entire rod of having m mass and capital L length. So moment of inertia is given by ml square by 3. But about what? About an axis which is passing through one of its end and perpendicular to the rod. Now, what if we change the axis? What if I am taking the axis which is this one, middle one? So for that, let us again rederive it. Now, formula, I will apply the same formula, but this time I am changing my axis to the axis which is exactly in the middle. So this axis we already know moment of inertia is given by ml square by 3. But for the same rod, what is the option to get the moment of inertia about this axis? First option is go with the basics, again derive. Okay, so I am going to again do the same thing. I'll go at R, take an elementary section having a width dr. I'll write the mass of that. Dm is nothing but m by L to mass per unit length into required length. You can say like that. And now I'll just apply the formula. Integration is integration dm r square. And I will say integration dm is m by L r square, this r square, and dr. So m by L dr times r square. But here the limits are going to change. Limits are going to be, see, r is changing from where to where? This is the midpoint of the rod, and I'll say r is changing all the way from this side to that side. So this is r is equal to minus L by 2 because it is half the length. And what is that? That is r is equal to plus L by 2. I am assuming that this direction is positive. So now I'll say it changes from minus L by 2 to all the way L by 2. The integration is same, and after putting the limit, you get the formula ml square by 12. So moment of inertia about this axis which is passing through the center of mass and perpendicular to the rod is given by ml square by 12. Now about this axis was ml square by 3, while about this axis it is ml square by 12. Let us do another way to do the same thing using our perpendicular and parallel axis theorem. So first is, let us say we already know this, that this is ml square by 3. We already know this. But this one we know that this is you want an axis which is parallel to this and passes through center of mass. So I am going to call that ICM. The axis which is passing through center of mass of the body and parallel to our given axis. So that is our ICM. And the distance between these two axes is nothing but L by 2. And let us say we have to find this without using any integration, given that I already knew this. So for that, I am going to apply parallel axis theorem. Why not perpendicular? Because it is not a 2D object. If it is a 2D object or a lamina, then we are going to apply the perpendicular axis theorem. But here we are going to apply parallel axis theorem. What does parallel axis theorem says? I equals to ICM plus MD square. Let us put the values one by one. Be careful. What is this one and what is this one? See, we don't know ICM. Okay, so we know this. So this is ml square by 3 is equal to ICM plus mass is m and distance. This is L by 2 and square of that is L square by 4. So when you need to find ICM, you will say ICM is nothing but ml square by 3 minus ml square by 4. And when you take LCM and solve, so you get 12 and 4 ml square minus 3 ml square is ml square. So again you are getting this is nothing but ml square by 12. So these are two ways in which you can find. One is the basic, one is the doing the integration. Let us discuss the next case of the thin rod, and that is basically what if from your axis the rod of length L, mass M is at an angle. So if it is at an angle, what you can do is you can cut it. See, one way to understand this is you can cut it in infinite small parts like this. What will happen? This part can be here. So this part is lying over here. This next part is lying over here. Next part is lying over here. Next part is like that. The entire rod can be shifted over here. And now I will say this same mass M is there. And what is this length of the rod? Length of the rod is L sine theta, because see, this is L, so this is L cos theta, this is L sine theta. So new length of the rod is L sine theta and entire mass has been shifted. So mass is still M. Now this axis is an axis which is basically perpendicular to the rod and passing through the edge. We already know that for such scenario, we'll say I is equal to nothing but ML square by 3. But the new length, I have to put L dash, and L dash is basically L sine theta. So mass is still M, so I'll say M, and it is L sine theta whole square. So ML squared sine squared theta by 3. And that is going to be the moment of inertia about this axis and where the rod is tilted at an angle. One thing is why we were able to do this. See, when you shift the mass, see, this dm was lying at a particular distance. Until I change the distance or I change the dm itself, the moment of inertia is not going to change. So you can cut your object, you can cut any object in infinite part, and you can change its without changing its distance from the axis. You can move it wherever you want. The moment of inertia is not going to change. So that is an important property. This is useful sometimes when they ask the moment of inertia of the rod, which is lying at some angle rather than it is perpendicular. Now let us discuss the next case, that is the ring. For ring, I will say that I have this ring and I have to find the moment of inertia about this axis, which is perpendicular to the plane of the ring and passes through its center. For that, what I am going to do is, I am going to take this mass, which is dm, and I am going to shift it all the way at this point. So this dm now lies over here. See, when I rotate it about the disk, the thing is the distance of this dm is never changing from the axis. Its initial distance was r and now its final distance is always r, right? So you can do that when you take the entire ring over here. Now entire mass m is lying over here, and now we can say it is same as this is the axis and entire ring is lying in a single point mass at a distance r. And moment of inertia of that is given by what? mr square. So I will say the same moment of inertia about the ring, for the moment of inertia of the ring about this axis is given by I is equal to mr square. Here also we have used the property that you can change without changing the mass. You can change without changing the mass and without changing the distance. You can change the shape of the object, but the moment of inertia does not change at all.